Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by the only two people who made sense for this episode, as they are some of the biggest fans of the 1994 version of The Crow that I know. Firstly, welcome to the show, our regular co-host Corrina Mabey.
Hello.
And joining us for this special episode, he is one half of the new tag team Bad Blood, the Australian sensation Craven.
Hello.
Corrina's new favorite tag team, just on
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
He told me that because I was listening to that. I was driving to work this morning and at a stoplight, I snapped a picture of my screen on my car. And I was like, look, I know who Kendrick Lamar is because he's on this song with T Swift. And he goes, that's the name of the tag team. And I was like, what?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's the best.
I did get pretty excited, weirdly, when you came out to that song at Pro Wrestling League recently.
Oh, it was actually pretty cool because we used the version that goes with my gimmick, which I'm slowly transitioning Zach into. So we used the version by the Animal in Me, which is like a metal cover, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, but obviously I would use the Taylor version, but it doesn't fit my gimmick as much.
Jamie never gets excited about a T Swift song, so the fact that he actually admitted to getting excited about something like that brings joy to my little soul.
Fantastic. So mine too. I'm not even a closet Swiftie. I'm a very open Swiftie, but you know, we'll get there.
Jamie's a closet Swiftie, but not for long. No, yeah, I made him watch the Eras tour last time I was visiting, and it was the best 3.5 hours of his life. He just didn't know it.
Oh. It's a good concert. I've had it on repeat on the TV like the whole year.
Yeah, it was I think I got so excited because we just had that conversation about Taylor Swift and your fandom for her, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So that was great.
Oh well. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, so this week we're joining forces to review the 2024 interpretation of The Crow, starring Bill Skarsgård as Eric Draven and FKA Twigs as Shelly. We're going to chat about how this version differentiates itself from the first 94 version. Does this film do justice to the source material, aka the graphic novel, not the original film? And does it do more harm than good to the legacy of The Crow? So before we dive in, the synopsis of the movie, it's about soulmates Eric and Shelly, who are brutally murdered when the demons of Shelly's dark past catch up with them. And then given the chance to save his true love by sacrificing himself, Eric sets out to seek merciless revenge on their killers, traversing the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right in this modern reimagining. So you're both major fans of The Crow. Before we dive into this deeply, first impressions of the new version.
Do you want to go first? Or me? Okay, I'll go first.
Nope, that's all you.
If you'll get the reference, I guess it can rain all the time. Because that's all I'm going to say. It can. Because it's not good. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's not good. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that I absolutely hated it, because I watched it through two different sets of lenses, and I'll get into that. Like, I watched it just as someone who knows nothing about The Crow, and then I watched it as someone as a fan, and I'm just going to say it's not good. You can go now.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. So to be fair, I've never read the graphic novels. The original movie kind of was the start of introduction to me being completely soulless and all black all the time. Yes, no, this wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst, but it definitely could have been better. And by better, I mean a lot better.
Yeah, I'm in a similar place. This isn't as bad as people made it out to be.
Right.
but it's definitely
No.
not good.
No. So I won't go off on a tangent because I'll wait for your questions because I'll probably just go off on a tangent. But yeah, I'll wait till you prompt me with questions.
I don't think this is the worst movie of the year, like a lot of people were saying. Have you seen Madame Web?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
terrible.
Shit.
Yeah.
I think people are just shitting on this because there's so many people that are, you know, in love with the original film, and they have such like a connection with it that they expected this to be like a carbon copy, and you can't do that. So I think that's where a lot of people end up just giving it really bad criticism.
Yeah. Like I said, I watched it through two different lenses. As a standalone movie, if I look at it like this, to me, the only similarity between this, the 2024 version, reimagined, remake, whatever they want to call it, and 1994 is the names Eric and Shelly. Honestly, that is the only similarity I can literally marry up. So if I hadn't seen the first Crow movie, if I knew nothing about it, the movie's actually pretty cool. It's a bit slow to get started, but it's kind of a love story that is a bit weird because I mean it takes an hour and 15 minutes to even you don't really buy into that. But the last I don't know 15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever it was fantastic. So if I knew nothing about The Crow, like I thought that was pretty cool. It was a violent, gory movie, which I love, and there was some pros from it. But if I compare it to the graphic novel and the original, it's bad. It's bad.
I think my biggest problem with this movie in comparison to I think the original is I used the term insta love when I was talking about Eric and Shelly, and that's exactly what it felt like, and I hated it. Like, yes, they delved deeper into their relationship and watched it grow a little bit, but it was like instantly like, ooh, who are you? I'm in love with you already. And I didn't like it. It was awful.
Yeah. Well, if you do compare it to the first movie, we fall in love with Eric and Shelly in the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, where this movie takes an hour and I didn't even time it, but it was over an hour before we even knew what was, some chick goes and gets herself arrested because she's running from her past and meets a guy in rehab and they break out together and they're in love. Like, it took so long to try and, it's hard to buy into that relationship where the original, they do it in the first 10 minutes and you're invested.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's so, but yeah, if you're watching it to compare to the original movie, don't waste your money. Wait till it comes out on free. But yeah, as a standalone movie, I actually didn't mind the color template. I didn't mind some of the cool little things that they did in regards to Eric becoming a trope. Did anyone notice this, or am I just imagining this? But I don't even think they refer to him as Eric Draven in the movie. I think he's just Eric.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't even say his last name.
Just
Eric. Yeah, he's just Eric in this movie.
No.
So that's the only similarity that I could see was the names.
Yeah, I think that sort of love story angle, I think what the biggest difference is, like that first movie, we're sort of just dropped into that world and you kind of get the sense that these two have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
And then this one, we get to see them literally meet and then all of a sudden they're willing to break out of a rehab prison system.
Yeah.
And then off to the races, they're fully committed, willing to die for each other.
It's very strange.
And some of the quotes actually made me laugh. Like, at one point, I remember laughing in the movie because Shelly said something like, I can't remember word for word, but I remember laughing because it goes, if you've ever tried to love someone and you can't, try to love me harder. And I'm like, what did you just say?
Yeah, love them harder.
Yeah, and I was like, what did you just say? Like, it just made no sense at all. So, yeah, it was, I was like
that's
pretty weird.
That was a greeting card gone bad.
It's the Dragon Ball mentality. If you don't kill them on the first punch, just punch harder.
Yeah, literally. So
yeah, that was a bit silly.
Yeah. So
and like you mentioned, sort of the names kind of being the only similarities. I did read that the original plan for this was to call this The Crow Reborn, and then it was going to be a totally new batch of characters, and it was the connecting thing was just going to be the whole Crow supernatural element of bringing someone back to life. That would have made more sense.
But it failed. Like the past 3 times they did that.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
I haven't seen any of those ones, so I don't know.
You're not missing anything. Please don't do it.
So, and with every other, well, not like every other, well, they've done the Stairway to Heaven show where they tried to reboot this, but with every other rendition of The Crow, they're not great either, but at least they didn't try to do the exact same thing, if that makes sense. And I just don't know. It was a bit, it was weird. There could have been a different rendition of The Crow. But even little things for me, like in the original, Eric had the foresight through the Crow's eyes, where this one, I don't even think, Bill Skarsgård's character is connected to the Crow at all. You know, like in the original, you could see stuff through the Crow's eyes when the Crow was flying around, and it helped him track down, all of Top Dollar's cronies. This one, he didn't have any of that. You know, he had that weird character that ended up being the paramedic. Spoiler alert! But I didn't even get his name. I don't remember his name. That spirit demon dude that he met on the train tracks. If anyone caught his name, I don't remember it. But yeah. So.
Kronos, I think they call him.
Kronos, yes, that was it. Kronos, yeah,
that sounds like a lost Avenger. That's the most absurd name.
And Kronos isn't in the graphic novel or anything. This is why I was like, he wasn't. You know, he's not in the graphic novel. He's not in the original. I haven't seen him before, so I think he was made for this movie.
That's weird. They were trying to adapt the graphic novel, but then they're making up their own characters as well.
Yeah, he's not in the graphic novel. So yeah, I don't know who that is. So
that explains a lot.
Yeah.
With the Crow Reborn that they originally pitched, the original story was about an undead police officer returning to avenge his family, and originally it was going to be Jason Momoa playing that version of the character.
Yep.
But then obviously production went into hell. It fell apart. So he left. And then there was constant rewrites. And eventually Cliff Dorman, who wrote that version of the script, he left because he felt that the amount of rewrites ended up not being his story anymore. So he didn't want to be attached to it. And we ended up with this version of The Crow.
Yeah, which it was a little, like I said, I actually thought Skarsgård did a really good job as portraying Eric and the Crow, but not because he definitely didn't try and rip off Branley. He just tried to make it his own. So I think he did a really good job actually. And his acting was probably the only thing that I did enjoy. Definitely wasn't his best performance, but he's a phenomenal actor. So I mean, I've never seen him do a really bad movie yet, to be honest. Didn't really buy into Twigs. I didn't really buy into her, Shelly. And I forget the crime boss. Is it?
Or the chemistry between them either.
Yeah. What you could just. Well, I didn't buy into that. And the crime boss, I forget the actor's name. Is it Houston? Who's the actor's name that plays the main crime boss?
Yeah, Danny Houston.
Danny Houston, that's it. I feel he just plays the same character in every movie that he does, but I didn't really buy into him either. So I still can't make sense of what his character was because he wasn't top dollar. I think he made a deal with the devil and he takes souls and he's just some Satanist. I was so confused. You know, I was so confused.
It was very messy.
Yeah, I was so confused that so he possesses people and he takes souls to be immortal. But then he wants the Crow to become more immortal. I I didn't get it. So yeah, I didn't get it. I was
Yeah, he's
I felt
already
real
immortal.
sloppy.
but-
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't. But a couple of cool parts from the one thing that I did like from this movie, with comparing, which I thought was kind of cool, was how Skarsgård. So in the first one, well, most of the regeneration powers is like Wolverine. Yeah, like Eric Draven gets shot, he heals. You know, like he gets a shot through the hand and he laughs at it. Where this one, where Bill Skarsgård got hurt, he'd have to like snap his leg back into place, or like he had to manipulate his body to put it back in, and he felt everything. I thought that was kind of gnarly. But I can't really give you any other good points when comparing it to the original. That's about it.
I like the graphics that they used for the like healing process though. Like that was kind of sick. Like watching the skin just like fuse back together was.
Yeah,
I'll give him credit for that, because when Jamie and I watched the original Crow, he was like, "That is the fakest hand I've ever seen on screen ever," and I was like, "It is the fucking '90s. Like that was badass back in the day. Give it a break."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The visual effects on this were pretty great.
like I said, and I did like the color palette, so to speak. I don't know if that's a word. I like the colors of the movie. You know, like I like how it was dark and eerie and gothic, and I really did like that. But that's about it. And I don't know. Oh, this just popped back into my head. I had no idea what the first horse flashback at the start of the movie, that made, like, I was like, are they trying, I think they were like trying to portray grief or loss or something. I don't know what they were doing, but it was really awkward. I was like, there's a horse that's just dead.
I did write that down. There's the opening scene features the white horse injured by barbed wire. Is apparently a reference to the graphic novel, where Eric has visions of seeing a white horse running and then getting stuck in barbed wire.
Oh, that could have been what it was like. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes it. I was.
Yeah, it felt really out of place for me as someone that's only seen the first movie. I was like, what is this?
I didn't even
this
put
is
that
full
together,
on.
actually. So yeah, I was a bit confused.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The Velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
I actually like the opening credit sequence. Like that whole like bloodbath thing. It reminded me of the US version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's like the only thing I could compare it for. But that's what sold me on the visuals for it, and I was like, all right, well, this might have potential. And well, it kind of did, but not really.
I think we can all agree that the movie looked good, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Parts of it.
Visually, it's like hyper violent, gory, brutal, absolutely blood-soaked. And I think it captures that sort of graphic novel aesthetic with like just how intense it is. Everything's hyper realized, ratcheted up to the extreme, and you have those dark, gloomy scenes contrasting with the opera scene, which is like bright yellows, and like the scenes where the color does come and pop in really stand out because it is very different and like stark contrast to the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Was anyone else taken back by how quickly they got their ankle monitors off? Because it was just like a quick shiv cut and that was it. I'm sitting there and I'm like, aren't those like not supposed to be cuttable? And
they're supposed to be very difficult to get off.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no problem, I got this.
Mate, yeah.
They're also supposed to set off an alarm when you do that, aren't they?
Yeah. Not just stay in the because they jumped out of the washroom. It was like a laundry or something, wasn't it? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. I didn't even pick that up. But
The
yeah,
fuck?
I didn't even pick that up. So yeah, that's another thing in the movie.
It's also not a very secure like facility when they can just open a window and climb out.
Yeah, I don't know if it was jail or I think it was more of a rehab. I don't know if it was a jail or a rehab, but I don't know what it was meant to be. But
Yeah, like
They
it
had
gave off
zero
weird vibes.
security.
It was like it was prison, like a prison building, but it's a rehab facility, and they must not have been able to leave on their own or sign themselves out type deal.
they all had that bright pink on, so obviously they were like, okay, so if they get out, they're meant to be visible. But yeah, that was a bit weird. But this is over my head. Does anyone know why Eric was there? How did he end up there?
No idea. Never explained. He just keeps looking at his hands and not talking to anybody.
Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I was like, because he just sort of wakes up there. I was like, what's he doing here?
Yeah, it was weird. It was like part mental institution, part prison, part drug rehab.
Yeah.
It
was
just
just
made
a-
no sense.
It was just a
Shelley-
building that was
Shelley,
there
yeah.
just to get these two characters together.
Well, Shelly was there for drug possession, so she got arrested and got sent there. So unless rehab was a part of what because she put herself there. Obviously, she got arrested so she wouldn't get caught by the people chasing her. But the thing that I think the thing that I wanted in the movie as well, which we didn't get, I was waiting for some sort of Easter eggs, and I haven't actually sat down and watched if I missed any, but I didn't notice any too many at all, to be honest, from the first movie. So, did anyone notice any Easter eggs at all from the first movie?
Not really. I think
a cameo or anything, but no, nothing.
nothing. I think probably everybody that was associated with the original movie that's still around wanted nothing to probably do with this.
Yeah, probably. So
Well, one of
I
the
was
actors retweeted a negative review of it, basically to suggest
really?
that he didn't like it either.
oh wow. Well, I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't even
That's
see
not
that.
a great sign.
Well, and I have only seen it once, so I probably will watch it again when it comes out on streaming or whatever. I don't even know how did it do it. Does anyone know how did it do at the box office? Was it really bad?
Awful. Fucking
Oh,
terrible.
Really?
Like absolutely horrible.
It cost them $50 million,
Yeah.
and at the moment, the gross takings are $21.1 million.
Oh wow, that's a big loss. That's a big loss. Yeah.
And it's now already on streaming on demand in the US as of September 13th. So
wow.
they're trying to get their money back through that.
Yeah, it was in the theaters for a month before they brought it to streaming. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's not good. That's not a good sign.
To be fair, it probably lasted in cinemas longer than it should have.
Yeah, that's true too.
Especially,
They're probably lucky that there wasn't anything else coming out.
Well, yeah, it probably, and I'm not even going to say this as an excuse, but it wouldn't have been overshadowed, but it was still coming out around the same time as like Deadpool and Wolverine and stuff like that. And yeah, I was like, and that came out a bit earlier, I think, but still, it's still pretty crazy. But
when I went to see it, there was 2 screenings a day that I could go to, and one of them was 10:15 in the morning, and the other one was 9:15 at night.
Oh.
So they were like the 2. Just chuck a movie in there, that'll do.
Yeah. Well, I went to the day before it came out, so I saw it, and it was really funny because I put the story up on my Instagram and said, I think I said I have an open mind, and the amount of replies I got being like, was it any good? And I got to the point where I was just copy and pasting the same answer to everybody because there's that many people that was messaging me, be like, what do you think? So I just copied and pasted the same answer to so many people because I didn't want to type it out all the time.
Yep.
I had several people ask me about it at work. They're just like, oh, how is it? Is it good? And I was like, I mean, I wouldn't pay to go see it. And I was like, I wouldn't pay to stream it. I'd wait till it was free to stream probably. They were like, seriously? And I go, yeah, like it's not god awful, but it's not fantastic either. So like, just chuck it on when you have literally nothing else to watch on your list at this point.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which streamer snaps it up to, like, because I feel like it's going to be like Madam Web because it's been so shit on by people in reviews and things. It's going to be one of those ones that when it hits like a Netflix or something, it's going to be at the top of the list just because people want to see, oh, how bad is
that's
this?
true.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That could. I mean, I think we spoke about this in the last episode. It had some massive shoes to fill. I don't know why they didn't leave it alone. Like a part of me secretly was excited because I was like, I wouldn't mind seeing a modern day, But then I didn't want it, so that's why I just went in and I was like, all right, we're not going to compare this. We're just going to watch it. But even then, it was just, like I said, good looking movie, but it was just so. It just failed to grab my attention. Essentially, like it just, I found myself at some points just being like, it's just drawn out. I think because you just don't get invested in it. You know, how some movies you just sit down and watch, and it's like you're invested from the get go. Like this one, it just took too long, which is weird for Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah. I think there's certain movies that like you just don't touch after a while. Like there are certain franchises and like just films that have such a history that if you're going to touch them, chances are it's probably not going to be as successful as you want it to be. And sometimes you just need to leave it alone at that point.
Especially with the history of this one too, like with the Brandon Lee legacy.
That's one good point.
Subject to touch on.
One good point that I took out of it is because there's a lot of people that say The Crow from 1994 was only successful due to the fatal wounding of Brandon Lee shooting that movie. That's why it became so popular. That's why it got so much. Obviously, that brought attention to the movie. But now that we've had 5 different renditions of what this original movie or graphic novel based, everyone can just see how much of a masterpiece that movie is. So whether he passed away or not filming it, now you can actually see how much of a masterpiece it was. Because that really annoyed me with some people, where it's like they'll just say, "Oh, it's only so popular," or "It's only a cult classic because Brandon Lee passed away due to the prop accident." And I was like, "That's not true. It's actually a fantastic movie." And now this is actual proof. Like they've tried to redo it again.
Yeah.
So that's one good thing that came out of it.
You can't duplicate the feeling that's in the first one. The first film is just so it's gritty and it's really like dark and just raw kind of thing. Like the soundtrack is phenomenal with it. It's a very grungy type of like style. Like that doesn't come across screen on any of these films that we've had now with this franchise, if you want to call it that. Just because they aren't filming it and you're not able to get that across. Like when I was watching the original Crow, I was like, yep, that's a dirty fucking city with like a bunch of like people just like wreaking havoc on it. And you look at this newest one and it's like you've got people going to the fucking opera and they're driving fancy fucking cars. So it's just not the same.
Yeah. Speaking of the soundtrack, this movie had and that was another thing that made like the original movie was the soundtrack was so good, right? This one lackluster, if any soundtrack. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just there was no. Yeah, that's
nothing that stood out to me.
No, not at all. So, it just wasn't. Yeah, because with the original, you're right. Like obviously the movie looking how it was dirty and havoc and stuff, and the music behind it, and this one it was just like, I think I was still at the end of the movie. I think I was still waiting for that. I mean, not to mention at the end of it, I got really, really annoyed, because I was like, you can't
because they leave it open.
Well, yeah, they leave it open, but that completely goes against everything that like. When the first graphic novel was written, James O'Barr was dealing with grief of losing his fiancée to a drunk driver. You know what I mean? Like, and then the original movie, obviously, it's the night before their wedding, and no one comes back. Like it's about them being able to rest peacefully. That's the whole thing.
Mhm.
And the fact that Shelly
Yeah.
comes back to life, I was like, no. No, there's not
Yeah,
going to be
this is not the movie that needed a happy ending. Like,
Yeah.
it was never intended to have a happy ending. It was just supposed to be like they eventually like find each other back again, kind of thing. Like that would have been so much better.
I picked that from the start, though, because I actually read something. Unfortunately, I read something before I went in that Skarsgård said that there was 2 endings filmed, and they went with the one that he wasn't too happy with. And I read that, and I was like,
Yep.
man, if your lead actor who has done multi-million-dollar films is one of the hottest actors at the moment, right? If he says he doesn't like the ending, which is obviously going to hurt his career, you should probably listen to him. And I knew it.
It's probably not the best ending. What have you done?
Yeah, I was like, they're going to do something dumb, and they did. And I was like, if they even try to bring Shelly back as like some sort of female version of the Crow, and this is nothing like, I'm not trying to be like Crow always has to be a male, but it just wouldn't work. Like in my opinion. So
Yeah, no.
like it just wouldn't work in that way. If they were going to do something like that, they should have done the whole movie in reverse and had Shelly as Eric. You know what I mean? And Shelly fight her way back to bring Eric.
Yeah.
So don't do it in a sequel that doesn't need to be there. So yeah, maybe they
Please
should have
don't
done
make
that.
a sequel. Please.
Like I said, this is the argument Corrina and I were having last week on our episode, where everything seems to be sequelized, and it's built into the fabric of movies now. Like they wrote this with the obviously pure intention of this will be a hit, and we can sequelize it and make this a new franchise. And it's like, just
Please
write a
don't.
good movie first, and then
Yeah.
if it's good enough to warrant a sequel, make a sequel. Don't
Mhm.
write it with the intention of we're going to make 3 of these.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe they should have done that. Maybe they should have done that if it was reimagined in reverse and have
Like gender swapping.
yeah, like not for any other. That would have got so much hate online, and I
It would have.
Yeah, I wouldn't have agreed with that. Like everyone knows me, I'm very much about flying the pride flag as much as anything else. But maybe if they were going to reimagine it, that would have been kind of cool. It would have got so much hate online, but if they gender swapped it and had Shelly be the one to fight for Eric's spirit, that could have been cool. It might have been better than what we saw. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws here, I think. So I just wanted
I think there's a lot of things they could have changed to make it better than what we've got.
Absolutely. It's just,
So-
The other thing I wrote down too was I was not a fan of the final like action sequence of the storming the opera, because we learn early in the movie that Eric can't die. So there's no like stakes to that moment where he's just being riddled with gunfire from countless bad guys and just
That's so
walking through them like it's nothing. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Just what's the point of this? He's a sponge. Take all this, keep moving forward.
yep.
Well, that was the only part of the movie. Not for that reason. That was the only part of the movie I liked. I was like, oh, it's like like I said from the start, it's like I'm watching.
The action was cool,
You know?
but
Like the action part was cool,
Yeah,
but you're
yeah.
right. There wasn't because at least in the original they found a weakness before that, and they said, okay, if you kill the crow or the spirit, you'll wound Eric. Where this one there was just nope. He's just gonna put up with it, and there's no point.
I had that written down where like literally they lost the whole crow concept when the lady's like, oh, it's not hate, it's love. And I was like, oh, okay, so if his love like starts to falter for her, then that's how he dies. That's not the crow concept. And that's what
why he
really
has to just
bothered
love
me with
harder.
this. Yeah, and I was not a fan of that whole, oh, I'm starting to question her and everything kind of moment. Now I'm gonna start dying. Like that's just not
I can see like where they were going with that storyline, but it just didn't work. She's like,
No,
if he fell in love with this girl so quickly and so deeply, why is he all of a sudden gonna just like falter?
yeah, like I felt like the first hour of the movie was just Oh, you know what else didn't make sense? Is they broke out of that rehab. Then why didn't they leave town? They stayed in town. Why did they stay in town? And then they went to a rave and got some drugs. I was like,
Yeah.
if
That's
someone's
smart.
after you, wouldn't you leave? Like,
Yeah. Don't stay where that person is. Get out of there.
that was funny too. But I still don't understand I really didn't understand the motivation behind the main villain in it. So the crime boss guy, the satanic worshiper dude. I just didn't understand the motivation behind it. So
He was just a creeper.
The only way I can make his character make sense is, so he makes that deal with the devil, which gives him immortality if he kills so-called good people and gives their souls to this devil. But he has to keep doing that. And then the only way that it makes sense that he wants to kill Eric and take the crow is if he's troubled by killing all these people, but the way he acts, he doesn't seem to be troubled by it. So, like, why would he not just continue doing it?
yeah,
Whereas then if he kills Eric and takes the crow, he doesn't have to kill anymore, but they don't show that at all. He seems like this ruthless, unmerciless, unforgiving killer that doesn't really have an issue with killing whoever it takes just to stay alive.
yeah, like to the point where I forgot until like right now when I was just like rescanning the movie in my head. I forgot, even though it's probably a pretty big part, that Shelly had the video or saw the video on her phone of her murdering the other person after she was possessed. But it was meant to be a big part, but there was so much going on that I just forgot about it. And I was so confused, if that makes sense. Like I forgot that even was a part of the thing. And that's why she was running in the first place. I thought she was just running over a drug debt or she just didn't like the guy. Or, you know, like, yeah, I remember it now.
That would have made more sense.
Yeah. So,
But again, like if that's why you're running, actually run.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't stay behind.
And yeah, it wasn't
I'm just
until
going
you
to stay
said
in this
that-
town and try to stay off the radar.
Yeah, it makes sense that when Eric was like, oh, if she done something bad, maybe I don't love her, then his love for her wasn't pure, and then he went back and died or whatever. And then Eric traded his soul for hers, which, why wouldn't you just do that from the start? Like, when he got there in the first place, he could have prevented the whole movie and just said, all right, just take me instead of her. And he would have been like, okay. He would have saved the whole time. You know? I did like his makeup, though. That's another part. I did like his makeup. I'm not going to lie. I did. But I like that sort of look. I did like his makeup when he finally became the Crow. I thought it looked really, really cool. It looked much better than the stills that I saw. It looked better on screen. So, that was...
Yeah, it didn't look as bad. His tattoo job, though, like, some of those tattoos were not really well put on in certain shots. It's like you can still see they're super shiny and like plasticky looking. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. That's not believable. And when he's like using the tattoo ink for his makeup, like the concept was really cool, but I was like, wow, that's really fucking unsanitary. Like you're gonna get an infection or something. Like, in my head, I'm just like, oh, that's so liquidy. Like it doesn't stay properly. Oh.
And not to mention that they were tattooing everybody. Like it was just sitting there in the chair. So God knows how many needles have been stuck in that jar of tattoo ink.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's gross.
So gross.
That whole makeup application part, that is probably one of the very few Easter egg references to the original version. Like he applies the makeup looking into a broken mirror, just like in the first one.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I had written down was during that opera scene when he gets stabbed through the back. That's a similar, he gets stabbed in the first one. So they're like really the loosest Easter eggs you can pull.
Yeah. But I didn't even pick. Obviously, the makeup scene was sort of recognizable. I didn't even realize the cracked mirror. But yeah, they were that subtle that I didn't even.
It's a very You're clutching at straws to make those connections.
Complete wrestling reference. But I kept thinking that I was watching Finn Balor. Like at some point when he does his makeup, I kept thinking he was Finn Balor as like the demon or whatever he transforms. Like,
Demon.
It just looks
Yep.
like, yeah, it looks like Finn Balor at some points. Like, yeah, so I was having a little chuckle to myself.
Another
So, yeah.
wrestling reference. Did John Moxley recently watch this movie as well?
Oh, with the plastic bag thing?
With the way Eric and Shelly are killed in this as compared to the first
Oh.
one. I feel like John Moxley might have been to the movies
the
recently.
Daniel Bryan thing. Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. That's maybe that's
What's
what I got
horrible-
it from.
Jamie even pointed out, he goes, in all of these fucking movies where people get suffocated by a plastic bag, why don't they just poke holes in their mouth? And I was
Yeah,
like,
that's true though.
no one
true.
thinks of that. Like,
That's
it's so
yeah,
smart and
they
easy,
didn't have
but
his
no one
hands
does that.
restrained, did they? So, but
No,
Nope.
he's like they're clutching at their necks, and I'm like, why are you at your neck? Just like,
Yeah,
pop, pop.
don't try and fight the person. Just rip the bag open.
yeah, that's very true. So I didn't even think about it from that AEW scene, the heel turn or whatever.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, when I watched All Out recently, I was just like, huh. I suspect John has been to the movies recently.
Didn't even put that together. But no, so
Yeah.
but
I did
don't know,
like that they changed the way they died. Is that plastic bag suffocation?
yes.
Is that more accurate to the graphic novel?
No. No, let me grab the graphic novel. Hold on. Yeah.
So they've just made up stuff again.
Love it.
Because yeah, I watched it and I just assumed that maybe that was how they died in the novel, because that's a very intense way to watch your partner be murdered.
I can't
Like,
imagine. that.
obviously, watching her get shoved out of a window, bad.
Yeah.
But
So
watching her get suffocated with a plastic bag whilst you're being suffocated with a plastic bag, extra intense.
Look, source material.
there is the white horse in barbed wire. That makes more sense now. That makes I didn't even put that through.
Oh, okay.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Now it's not completely just out there for no fucking reason. Like PETA's having a field day right now with this fucking movie.
Yeah.
That was an intense way to kick off a movie, though. Like,
It
Whoa.
That
actually
was
really
awful.
sets the tone,
so it was a good flashback.
and then yeah, it just kind of fell off from there.
Yeah. They don't get strangled with plastic bags in the
Yeah.
in the graphic novel. So
Is
Let's
it
just
they
beaten
get pushed out
to
the window? Does it follow the first movie? Oh, they get
yeah,
beaten.
well
Okay, so it's
sort of. Yeah.
multiple different ways of dying.
God damn. We had one job, guys. One job.
Literally. This is all of them in one. So I haven't. So you got to go through this, all the different parts of it in one. So it's quite a big book.
So that's the Crow remake. In terms of a rating, Corrina, what would you give this one out of 5?
I give it a 2 because it wasn't god awful, but it's not great. I feel like the actors did the best that they could with the scripts that they were given. And I really honestly feel that if they had renamed the characters something other than Eric and Shelly, it wouldn't have received such negative backlash. I feel like if they had just gone into this as it's a Crow reboot, but we're going to change it up and give it a different character, then, it would have been more accepted, I feel. But when you're just carbon copying the character names, everybody's going to just automatically associate it with the original. So I feel like that was putting everything against them.
Craven, how do you feel about this one in terms of a rating out of 5?
Yeah, I'd honestly go 2 as well, just because if it didn't have Bill Skarsgård in it, it probably would have gone to a 1. Yeah, similar thing. I think they did the best they could with the script they had, and I did like visually. I liked it in different elements of the movie. I mean, I like the gore and stuff, but yeah, it wouldn't be something that I'd rush out to go see. The one last thing that really annoyed me, you just reminded me from the graphic novel to the original, is she's not. They're just suffocated in this one, where in the graphic novel and the original, they make a big emphasis on Shelly being like beaten and raped, and Eric having to watch that, and that's what really, because the whole preface behind it is like something terrible happened. Really, where he walks in and just watches her getting strangled, which sucks, and he like watches her die, but then she comes back to life anyway. So what did she? You know what I mean? Like, I know she died, but what did she actually? What was so terrible about that when they brought her back to life compared to what they had to in the original, where she was raped and this fun boy raped her pretty bad.
Yeah, they definitely toned that part down in this one a lot.
Yeah, which is the whole preface of The Crow. Is something so horrible happens that your soul can't rest. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at this point, like, yes, murder is bad, but how many people are murdered every day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Like,
why is this one special?
Not sugarcoating it, but literally, it happens every single day. So that's what made it different from the original and the graphic novel is because she was like beaten and raped in front of him, and then he was pretty much beaten to death.
Yeah, in terms of a rating, I think across the board, we're all going to go 2 here. I'm the same. Storyline-wise, don't get too excited. Don't get too wrapped up in the nuance and the bits and pieces. But if you want to just see a fun action movie, the action sequences are great. The visuals are great. Yeah, that's probably about as much as you can hope for. I would wait until it hits either a Netflix or an Amazon or something. Just wait for streaming. Don't pay for it. You won't get your money's worth if you pay for it, no matter how cheap it is.
Agreed.
Alrighty. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. Craven, thank you for joining us this week. Anything that you wanted to promote or social medias and stuff like that?
Yeah, as last time, I'm pretty much active on Instagram, TAS_Craven. And the one thing that I will throw a sneaky plug in for is my next live appearance on a wrestling show will be Pro Wrestling League Revolution 5, which will be their 5th anniversary show, which will be really good. And myself and Zach, as Bad Blood, will be in a 4-way TLC match, and that will be awesome. So that's just what I want to plug. I think tickets are pretty much nearly gone.
Yeah, that's going to be an intense show. I looked up getting flights for that, but it's school holidays, so very expensive.
Oh, of course it is. But but it's going to be a good show. That will no doubtly. Last year, Revolution sold out. This year, it will sell out again as well. So.
And then next year, February, very big shows coming up for Pro Wrestling League as well. So definitely get onto those tickets while you still can.
Yes, definitely. Well, the Super Show has just been announced in association with Renegades of Wrestling. That will be kicking off the AEW weekend, so to speak. And watch this space, because I'm pretty sure there's more to come. Awesome.
Alrighty. And then, Corrina, where's the best place to support you and follow you?
Oh, I'm on Instagram too, but I always forget my handle. There's going to be a new... Jamie gave me permission to do a review for Halloween Horror Nights, because I've been spending the past month, every weekend this past month at Horror Nights. So just be on the lookout for that review eventually in its entirety. I'm really excited about that.
Nice. Your handle is at Miss Corrina Renee.
That's what it is. Yep, that one. Mm-hmm. I don't look at my own handle. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm on Instagram. Let me go put my app on. Whatever, cool. I don't fucking do that kind of shit. I'm old school. Whatever.
And then you can follow me on social media at JammyUps Media and at Pario Magazine. Once again, thanks for jumping on, both of you, and we'll catch you soon.
See you guys.
The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.